Welcome to the YoggNation, the Spirit of Gratitude podcast on the One Integration platform. Hello, friends. My name is Yogesh Patel, and this podcast explores the themes of bullying, self-awareness, and the power of our inner spirit, including the silent battles we all face. Join me every week as I invite high-profile guests as we explore how adversity shapes us, how gratitude lifts us, and how we can all uncover the inner strength that we all have within ourselves. Join the conversation. I appreciate you listening in.
And my next guest is myself. I thought I would take this opportunity, as the listeners have had 45 episodes in, to learn more about the messaging of the guests in terms of their themes of gratitude, self-awareness, and inner spirit. But I thought I'd take this opportunity just to pause and take a step back and let the listeners know why I created this podcast. What is my passion? What is my purpose? Why the heck am I even doing this? I thought I'd answer these questions here on today's podcast to give the listener an understanding of who I really am as a person and what drives me. And I was grateful enough that I sent out a message on Instagram a few days ago asking my listening audience for questions that they want to know about me, the podcast, or anything else. And so I figure I would take this opportunity to let the citizens of YoggNation know my purpose, my passion, and what I'm doing. So without further ado, I'm really excited, a little nervous. I'm just guessing perhaps I'll share things that might be vulnerable. I may shed a tear. Hopefully I make you laugh and be entertained. We'll see. But again, I'm grateful for all of you to being part of this journey to help influence in society in a manner that has never been done before. And I'll explain that here momentarily. So the first question asked was, why did I start the podcast? Obviously, a great question. And it comes down to, I wish I had something like this growing up. You know, as a teenager, I was feeling resentful, anger, confused, lost. I really didn't know how to control or deal with my emotions at the time, as I had all these self-limiting beliefs that weren't helping me grow as a person. And because of the eye allergies or the eye issues that affected me when I was 15 due to allergies, you know, I couldn't get good grades, not even top 10%. My SAT scores were horrendous, but I knew I was a hard worker. And ultimately, that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to have and put out some messaging out there to help people overcome a challenge or a struggle, an adversity that perhaps they may be going through their life, whether it is bullying, which is what my daughter Riani had experienced growing up, or fighting their own inner demons. And it's something I still deal with sometimes. But again, I just have learned to put it in its little box and not try and let it affect me. And with faith, hope, and prayer, you know, life is going to get good. I just know it because I'm an example of what that is. And ultimately, why this podcast is, again, I hope to earn your trust, your loyalty to tune in every week, from the reels where perhaps when you scroll at the end of the day and you pause and reflect on the messaging of my guests. I hope you appreciate them. And, you know, if you're a first-time listener or perhaps had viewed one of the previous reels, I would certainly appreciate a follow. I do want to be able to grow my audience, and you are the main reason why we would be successful in terms of positive messaging that perhaps, and using technology in the right way. The podcast is simulcast on both streaming and social media platforms. So streaming, you can find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, and on the social media platforms, I'm invested in YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn. So I would appreciate you doing the needful and liking and subscribing, baby. The second question from the listening audience was, why focus on gratitude specifically? And for many people, life is hard. life is unfair, life is unjust and unkind. And we all know that in today's society that we live in, it is divided based on our politics and our beliefs. It's the rise in mental health. 57 million Americans are affected by it. Yikes, that's a lot. Even if you imagine with all of the healthcare professionals, all the therapists that are out there, that number seems to be growing. I don't know why. And again, for the young folks, it's finding that purpose within themselves. And that's who I want to be able to address and have influence in society. Some people do it by way of public service, either through Congress or being elected in their local city council or on the school board. Some do it by the nonprofits they're associated with, whether they are a paid person or perhaps a volunteer. I, for example, just want to do it through the medium of a podcast. And just even, it's reflecting on my own journey and from the storytelling from my guests. And it's all about having that resilience and inner spirit within ourselves that I know we all have. It just has to come out from within yourself, whether that comes from parents, mentors, even technology to a certain degree. Social media is good and bad, but I tend to believe in being an optimist that technology is good in the sense of just putting out some good messaging out there, finding that community that perhaps could help you deal with those, again, everyday struggles and challenges and stresses in life. And, while I don't have a degree in psychology or behavioral science, my background has been such that I've been a technology executive for the past 25 years. I believe that I do have a certain credibility in terms of the life journey that I've experienced, and hopefully that could be passed on to the listeners, either through my questioning or just listening to this audience. Again, the podcast itself, I'm simply the messenger. The podcast guest, the guest is the message. And so, speaking of the message, Riani Patel, my daughter who has Tourette's, was on the podcast. And again, the focus on gratitude is because of what we were able to do as a family to help her through her trying times, as we all went around at the end of the day, no matter how difficult and bad the day was, we would always find 3 grateful things that we were thankful of. And we'd all listen to each other having that sense of gratitude. And I think that certainly helped Riani in her healing. Again, a lot of it was not only gratitude itself and being grateful, but it's also our faith in our God, and just the family support that Riani had. My wife, Ami, a trooper in all aspects, having taken her to Stanford 3 times every week, fighting through traffic to help Riani cope with her tics and Tourette's, working with a nurse practitioner. The sacrifices she made as a mother and wife to do that is unbelievable. And I certainly owe my extension of gratitude to help Ami become such an integral role in Riani becoming a happy, graceful individual she is today. It's her older sister, Rishika, who helped become her best friend. And throughout the adversity that Riani faced, having tics and having Tourette's growing up, and for those in the community, in the TS community, more power to you in terms of what perhaps your child or even yourself may have experienced growing up being bullied. I remember the many times that we would get the call from the nurse's office saying, Riani's been bullied. Can you please pick her up? Sometimes we would say, yes, we'll pick her up. Sometimes, no, I'm sorry, gut it out. You've got 2 hours left in the day, deal with it. But I happen to believe that with the severity of the bullying that Riani experienced in middle school, in particular, with the teasing, with the name calling, hair being pulled, I don't know why middle school kids do that, but nonetheless, she was able to turn this adversity into a pillar of resiliency, in the sense that she was able to write 2 books. The second book being called The Terrible Bullies, was a #1 release on Amazon. Um, and working at the Ritz-Carlton for a year after she graduated from high school. So it got me thinking, it's like, how does this individual, granted she's our daughter, in the way and respect that myself and Ami had raised her, primarily Ami, it's how does this person that has faced these monumental challenges, yet was able to become a successful author, worked at the Ritz-Carlton, OMG. And so that got me thinking, it's like adversity leads to success. And that's kind of the main messaging and the main common theme throughout all of my previous guests, whether it's from 1 to 45. And again, that's what I want to be able to share. And, this picture that you see here was of Riani back in 2016 or 2018, excuse me, when she was 14 years old. We were at the big island of Hawaii, thankful enough to have our family vacation there. And she prayed to the volcano goddess Pele to help her rid her of her tics. And so, again, to me, that is the mental image that I have for kind of this podcast. Again, with gratitude being central theme. Wow, that was a lot to unpack. What is the goal and what am I trying to solve? Another question. And I wish I could say I'm curing cancer, but I'm not. But at the end of the day, folks, it's just putting in some good messaging out there for people to reflect on. And for me, I've always had a passion for leaving the world a better place than when I first found it, whether it was either through my volunteering efforts or being that of a technology account executive, helping companies solve a problem. And that's where I found my purpose in life, fulfilling on something that has been inside of me ever since I was a teenager. Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson was one of my favorite all-time songs. The lyrics, again, I'm no MJ, but the lyrics read, if you want to make the world a better place, you better look at yourself and make that change. And, I hope to be leading by example in this podcast, which I, God willing, I can continue for a very long time. And, I hope for the person that's listening, again, I'll say this time and time and again, it's taking a nugget of wisdom that each of them share to feel inspired, to become educated, to become entertained. But more importantly, though, learn something about yourself or rediscover something about yourself. And, just share the message that perhaps may, to a friend, to a person that may need to hear this. It's all about, that message at the right place at the right time. Again, I would be honored to be invited to high schools, educational conferences, and share the messaging in the podcast. Specifically for the young adults and adolescents, I know that I don't have much of a following quite yet. And I just happen to believe that perhaps it's the packaging in terms of how these young folks can find me. And, one of the things I was really grateful for was speaking to the kids at Nogales High School several months ago. And I learned a lot, of course, picking up a few Instagram followers along the way. But really what I learned in the sense that they were asking these students in each classroom. I think I was speaking to 6 classes, and they were astute. I mean, they had a real, an interest in what the podcast messaging was about. Some had asked me about if I'm an athlete, what advice do you have for me? And luckily I was able to remember that Nick Laurie, NFL legend from the Kansas City Chiefs, all-time leading scorer, by the way, basically said, why not you, right? Why can't you be the best person you are in the endeavor that you want to be accomplished, whether that's being an athlete, whether that's being a musician, or perhaps in academics? It doesn't matter. It's all about developing that self-confidence within yourself to be the best person you are. Another example or another question that I got from a student was questions around body image. That was me growing up. And I had to reflect on what Denise Milner had mentioned, 6-time New York Times bestselling author who talked about body image on the podcast and the fact that she was uncomfortable in her own skin. And so I was able to reference that. But the one thing that I was not able to answer, and that still tugs at me today, um, getting a little emotional already, is one of the questions was around self-hurt. And that stung my soul in the sense that here is this beautiful individual on the inside and out and asking this question. I don't know where she got perhaps that idea to self-harm herself. And it's unfortunate. And that is, and I say this grinningly, folks, this is my passion. This is exactly the reason why I've chosen to do this podcast, is to put some good messaging out there so that these students don't have to think about hurting themselves in whatever reason. Perhaps it's technology, it's the environment, it's someone perhaps in their family that doesn't see their potential. But, part of it is getting out of your comfort zone and explore, fail, and succeed. And again, as I mentioned before, I think it's the packaging is what I'm missing. Maybe it's the way that I'm not putting in the right hashtags. I don't know. That's something that hopefully you can help me as we journey on this venture together. And so, wow, that was a lot. But so be it. Question, a really good question. Actually, ChatGPT asked me this, was how do you define self-awareness and why is it critical for personal growth and well-being? And I just happen to believe that defining self-awareness comes down to what type of person you want to become. Are you showing empathy, or are you being a dick to others, but more importantly to yourself? And again, it goes back to the man in the mirror. Another paragraph from the song is, I've been a victim of a selfish kind of love. It's time that I realize that there are some with no home, not a nickel to loan. Could it be really me pretending that they're not alone? And of course, I think a lot of what MJ talks about is poverty, but insert any other adversity or challenge or thought that you're going through. That's what I'm trying to able to influence folks, is this messaging. And I think I'm unique in the sense that this is a video podcast as well as streaming. And I know that, with all the amazing gratitude podcasts out there, I want to be able to hit the message where folks actually happen to consume their information. And all right, wiping away my tears now, blinking. More of the fun questions now. How do I find my guests? And initially it was blind outreach. Again, I've been a technology account executive for 25 years. So hopefully I've learned the gift of the gab in terms of what I can do, to introduce myself. And luckily these people willingly have said yes to come on and share their messaging out to the world that, again, hopefully encourages people to be the best version of themselves. And another key thing with my guests is diversity in terms of their age, profession, background, and culture, as it relates to the relatability of the guest to the listener and or to the host. And so, again, being new to podcasting a year ago, I didn't even know how to optimize things. I'm becoming a little bit better at this. But again, could a listener relate to perhaps a technologist, Brian Dawson, who talked about being smart enough in school but being bullied? Could you perhaps relate to, as I mentioned before, an NFL legend like Nick Laurie, but more importantly, a person like Amy Truesdale, Paralympian athlete from last year's Paris Olympics, who won gold medal for the UK, where she mentioned, in spite of having only a left nub, so she competed in Taekwondo, she won gold medal. Success leaves clues, and it's having a relate to a journalist like Jonathan Karl from ABC News, who says that he wanted those stories to be untold. Can you identify yourself as the listener to these guests, or even perhaps to me, the host? As I mentioned before, I want to help be able to get your trust and hopefully your loyalty to like and subscribe and to appreciate the messaging of the podcast. And a fun question is, who do you dream to have on your podcast? And first and foremost, it's a sports broadcaster who's called the Masters, Final Four, and Super Bowls. This individual, Mr. Jim Nance. I had a chance to meet him once in person and another by getting this autograph. And on the autograph that he wrote to me, he says, I'm not sure if you can see this, folks, "To Yogi, dream big." That's kind of what I'm doing with the podcast. And this autobiography that he wrote was about his relationship with his father. I took away many good notes when I first read it, and I happened to be thankful enough to get his autograph. So, long story short, Jim Nance. Number 2, model Paris Jackson. I want to personally thank her for what her father, Michael Jackson, did to inspire me, to help be a part of molding me to the person I've become. I just can't thank the artist in MJ for what he did to help me be the person part to who I am. And the third is none other than Snoop Dogg. Yes, the OG, Dr. Dre. Oh my gosh, Death Row Records. I'd love to be able to get him on the podcast and ask him these various questions about gratitude, his inner spirit, his self-awareness, see if he was bullied. And I always like to tease people that in his song, "Nothing But a G Thing," what do you think the G stands for? Gratitude, baby. Or in his words, biatch. Anyway, this is just kind of a fun side of me coming. But for those that are listening, if you may have a connection, I would love and appreciate the help. And so what are some of the OMG moments for you that I've had since launching the podcast? So I launched the podcast back in August of last year, 45 episodes in. I always like to think that if you're not going to listen to your parents or to your spouse on some of the wisdom nuggets, at least have 45 of these amazing, incredible individuals that can help you. And some of the OMG moments that I've had is, number one, seeing my logo at Backlot Studios when I do record in studio. It's just an amazing feeling to see, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm really doing this. Number 2 is just simply all of the incredible guests that I've had. The opportunity to be able to have the brother of James Earl Jones, Matthew Earl Jones, on the podcast, Judge Lynn Toller from Divorce Court, a person who clinically died, passed away for 7 minutes, came back to life. He's now an inspirational speaker. These are all gems of an individual, and I pinch myself for their willingness to come on. So thank you. And finally, it's one of the OMG moments I've had in this experience was having lunch with actor and filmmaker Edward Burns from Saving Private Ryan. Wow, all of the advice that he shared was pretty amazing. I still carry that to this day. And he actually recommended his brother, Brian Burns, who talks about gratitude. And currently, I haven't gotten a call from Brian. Hopefully he will. Maybe he's one in the listening audience who can hear this. But Brian, if you're there, would love to be able to talk to you. What are the challenges? Number 1 is growing my audience. A year into it, I feel that I don't have, or don't like to have enough. I know that from my spiritual training, it's it's the results that don't matter. It's as long as you diligently put in the work, put the everyday grind, it will happen. Hasn't happened yet, but I think a lot of it, folks, is because all you see on the reels is 5 reels of each guest who's changing. You don't know perhaps what is the commonality, what is the binding thing that is common, and that binding thing is myself in terms of the questions that I ask, getting them to respond. And so, again, if this is my coming out party, hello world. This hopefully gives you an opportunity to understand again who I am, why I'm doing this, the purpose that I'm serving, and again would be grateful for like and subscribe to any of the social media or streaming platforms that you follow. Again, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, face, you know it. So that's number one, growing the audience. Number two is finding willing partners, benefactors, and sponsors who believe in my purpose. I would say that purpose, it doesn't pay the bills. So I'm looking to find those individuals or organizations that say, Yogi, I believe in what you're doing. Here's your money. Now go do your thing, change the world. Those are my biggest challenges because I know that money follows attention. I don't have the attention because I don't have the right number of followers to bring this message to scale. And so with social media, the currency itself are the followers. I'm guilty of that myself, and I don't blame anyone for perhaps skipping over my podcast if it's something that doesn't visually appeal to you in terms of the profile page, or if it's or just looking at the number of followers and saying, "Yeah, he doesn't have enough followers. It must not be that important." But that's what I'm trying to change, folks. And the three ways in general that you tend to grow the audience is effort-based marketing, commenting on other people's posts, paid advertising. That's already spending money. That would be spending money I don't have. And then thirdly is organic discoverability, which is where I'm putting all my focus and marbles on this yet. So again, I would appreciate if listening to this, if you can share this to a friend, a colleague, a family member that appreciates just hearing the diversity of kind of just good messaging out there. For the ultimate goal is to help you overcome something, an adversity in life, and ultimately for you to become the best version of yourself. Another great question was, you talked about having eye surgery before. What happened? And this is a really good one. So ever since I was 15, I developed eye issues that due to allergies. And over the course of many years taking steroid eye drops, that tended to cause issues on the eyes, enough so that I had my first bouts of glaucoma and cataract surgery in both eyes in the year 2000. So I was barely 30, yet having these surgeries that typically are meant for people later on in life. It was quite difficult, again, trying to raise a family with these health issues and with these health concerns. And again, that's part of where my gratitude comes in. But life had changed for me back in December of 2021. And this blue bag helped me with that. Let me show you what it is, folks. So if I open up the zipper here and I open this up, it's actually got a series of bandages, some information from the Mayo Clinic. That's where I had, life-altering eye surgery in the left eye to help and restore my vision. Before that, my vision was terrible. Really couldn't function. I had to work through a magnifying glass just because I wasn't able to read even the words so clearly. So imagine the difficulty and the stress and the struggle I had with my adversity growing up throughout these times. And so from age 15 to 50 is what I have struggled with. And I sometimes still struggle with it yet still. But nonetheless, this blue bag, first, I was a number. That number was 150-979-5233. It was my number at the Mayo Clinic during pre-ops. And gosh, I remember that day very well. So this is what was in this blue bag. Number two, some bandages to band-aid the eye from the eye patch I was given. This was the patch itself, and so imagine with this, right? And this is kind of may sound corny and cheesy, but this was me for probably 5 days after surgery. Um, you know, gauze here, and the all important eye patch, right? I may be a fool of myself, but our Shiver Me Timber Pirates of the Caribbean. Hello, Johnny Depp. And finally, this little dum dum, this little lollipop, and kind of a fun joke was that before surgery, when the doctor came in, they said, "Mr. Patel, is there anything you would like? You would like?" It's like, you know what? Just for kicks, I'd like a lollipop after surgery, something to keep me happy. And lo and behold, an hour and 15, hour and 30 minute, actually, surgery was an hour and 30 minutes. Lo and behold, this was there in the recovery room. So kind of fun story to share. Yeah, I'm just kind of reflecting again. My spirit of gratitude is the fact that I'm able to see clearly without any hardship or struggles now that I've moved to Arizona, where the dry climate has helped me instead of California, which is where I was born and raised. But it was the humidity, the cold, and the mold and the dampness that got me. And so, what's been my favorite episode? I can't definitively say I have a favorite episode. That being said, I do cling to some of the messaging from each of my guests, and that resonate with me, and that I practice and apply every day, which I hope some of you have gotten some of that internalization of the guests and their messaging. So for me, it was a Chef Ron Young, celebrity chef from Arizona, who's done amazing catering events for celebrities, athletes. And to me, what stuck to me was his quote where he says, "I pray, I ask for the things I ask for, and I put in the work." That's what I try to do every day with my work ethic, with my integrity, with the way that I show up to people, and how I hopefully am able to earn their trust to the guest or even to the listening audience. That to me is just shows kind of the grit that I have. From Pandit Manoj Dutt, Hindu priest, among his clientele is a Nick Jonas and Priyanka Chopra. And he said that 90% of all of our issues, struggles, worries, challenges is self-created in the mind, in the sense that it is the wrong beliefs, the wrong expectations, the wrong knowledge you have in life. Kind of goes back to my first question earlier, and that is these self-limiting beliefs that I had that really didn't develop the person I could have become. But again, such is life, and that's experience. So that's something that I always have tried to remember myself in my most difficult times. Again, it's what is my self-limiting belief that I'm not able to see something positive or whatever. Former UFC fighter Cliff Starks, I love this because I asked him, I was like, "Dude, aren't you afraid to get hit in the octagon every time you fight?" And he goes, "Absolutely. It happens a lot, quite frequently." But he says that he lets his fear turn into faith. And I happen to believe, kind of goes back to that self-limiting belief. It's like, if you're fearful, you default to your faith to help you overcome it. Simple, right? Anything that I've gone through a struggle or challenge, I fear it, but I have faith in trusting the process, trusting my friends, trusting the people that are willing to help me to get me through that adversity or challenge. And then finally, it's Seema Mathur. It was really special that the podcast was her first introduction to having her have brain surgery. Yikes. But the thing that are parallels, and she's a former CNN producer working in Africa and I believe Eastern Europe at the time. But she said that it's going to be okay, in the sense that don't knock yourself out. You've gone through a lot. And, for me, I just take that back in terms of my own health issues with the eyes, with Riani's challenges with Tourette's. It's going to be okay. So, um, I hope you learned just a little bit more about who I am through the podcast. I do hope to share more of who I am in more episodes, as the subject of gratitude to me is so meaningful that I really want more people to experience that. And again, it goes back to some of the problems that we have within ourselves, within society, the way that we deal with people. And I just hope that the messaging that I put out there from the guests who share their authentic and vulnerable storytelling, you become a better person, you self-reflect, you take inspiration to something that they share that can be applied to you. So I thank you for listening, and I do sincerely hope that you like and subscribe, you share this video, and just please, with a sense of gratitude, I would appreciate what you can do to help us support the podcast and messaging, and what we could do to help one another in society. Thank you, everyone. Take care.